Matt Boyd here with Sojourn Church, Portland, Oregon. And I just wanted to thank you all so much for your ongoing prayer, generosity, support, encouragement for us throughout this year, throughout this pandemic. It is hard to believe that we have found ourselves already in the month of August. And normally this is about the time that I'll send out a newsletter for you all to read, but I decided let's do a little video update this month just to change it up so you can see my face and you can interact with me a little bit and just hear about how things have been going. Our state and our city are very much still not completely on lockdown, but we're still in phase one, which basically means we can get takeout food, takeout coffee, go to some retail shops, but not much else. All the camps and festivals and concerts, all the things that we normally do in the summer have been canceled, including our own kids camp. And so we had to cancel that, which was a great disappointment. But what we have been able to do is we know that the gospel message does not stop regardless of what's happening in our world and our society. And that we're continuing to advance the gospel. We're continuing to be present with neighbors. And so that's what we're encouraging all of our people to do, to be present with neighbor, go deeper with those neighbors who you live next to. Many people I know in the city of Portland, if they are choosing to interact with others, it is their neighbors. It's their neighbors who they're having backyard fire pits with and cookouts and maybe going to the river together. And so we've encouraged our people to continue to live as a missionary right there in the opportunities and relationships that God has already placed in front of you. Which, as a side note, we should be doing that anyway, but a pandemic gave us a great excuse just to continue to do that. We have continued to gather with our friends Eastbridge Church, and so Sojourn Eastbridge have really been gathering as one church for about 4 months now. Everyone got online fatigue, and we thought, well, what is it that we can do creatively to allow us to still gather, but do it at a safe social distance? And so we decided that at least for July and August, that we will not meet indoors for any reason. We're just not going to do it. We just don't want to put others at risk. But there are tons of parks in the city of Portland, and there's a park called Mount Tabor Park. Some of you have been to it. It's beautiful, and it overlooks the city. It's actually an extinct volcano, and so we decided we'd start meeting there. It's actually an amphitheater, and we have plenty of space to space out, social distance, family units sit together, and then we have benches 6 feet apart from one another. Plenty of hand sanitizer. Wear your mask when you need to, and don't wear it when you don't need to. And we're just trying to be sensitive to everyone's needs as best as possible, but still come together as the church. And so we've been doing that for the month of July. It has worked out really, really well. It's accomplished all those things we want to accomplish. We're able to, one, just see each other. Everyone's just missing see each other in person. We've been able to fellowship together. We've been able to worship through song and through taking of the elements of communion. Just yesterday we did that. And then the preaching of the word, where we're actually in the book of Philippians. Now, much like yourself, we still have some people, a percentage of our congregation that are not comfortable or are not ready to gather in person. And so we're starting to record our messages and still make those available online weekly. And so if that's something you're interested in, you can go to our YouTube channel and check out each week. Those will be posted. Also, we have a church online platform that you can just send an email to info@sojournpdx.org, and we will make sure you get that if you are interested in tuning in and viewing that weekly. Other than our gatherings, our groups continue to meet in the month of July. They looked a little bit differently. We had a particular focus that we were going to go towards in at least at Sojourn, and then we decided, you know what, we all just really miss seeing each other, so let's just come together as the people of God. What's nice is we have the freedom to do that, and so we started gathering in my backyard for our gospel community. And what was really cool is there were some weeks that nobody from Sojourn could make it, but my neighbors came over, and so we've had lots of interaction with neighbors over this last several weeks, and hopefully it will continue into the month of August. And then outreach has looked very, very different this summer with most of life being shut down, but we've continued to provide meals for the Portland Rescue Mission, the Harbor specifically, which is a rehabilitation, discipleship, all-inclusive 2-year program for most of these men were addicted to some kind of substance abuse at one time. And so they are in this place where they live 24/7, and we go once a month, provide a meal. So it's just really great to still provide that and still interact with those guys. Some of us have still volunteered at the Oregon Food Bank C3 Food Pantry, and that has just been a blessing throughout this entire COVID-19. And you just see how much there's a need for people who, tangible needs, who need food. And sometimes they have extra boxes. I'll go pick those up. We got a call just last week at Sojourn's number, and someone needed some gas and they needed some food and just whatever help we could get. And so we were able to bless them with some food boxes from the food pantry and put a tank of gas in their car and able just to interact with them a little bit. And so the gospel work and ministry has not stopped even in the midst of a time when everything seems to be virtually shut down. And so that's what a lot of July has looked like. That's just a snapshot. It was a really, really fast month. It's so hard to believe, once again, that we are in the month of August. Upcoming plans for August, we are basically weekly deciding whether or not we're going to gather in person or not. And as of right now, unless things change drastically, we probably will continue to gather at Mount Tabor Park. And then we are actually introducing a midweek prayer for the month of August. Every Wednesday at noon, we'll be in a different location, somewhere outside, coming together as the people of God to pray for clarity on just what does the rest of 2020 look like? And what does the future of our church look like, specifically since we are a church plant? And then also to pray for unity. There are so many things that have marked this year that could cause us to be disunified and to get torn apart and tear each other down as a church and in the midst of spiritual warfare and everything else going on. And so we're also seeking the Lord just for unity of our church. And so my request to you is I want to invite you to join us in that. I would invite you to join us on Wednesdays as we pray for unity and clarity. Some of us will be fasting as well as part of that, and so I'd invite you to do that as well. We'll be praying from 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and so I know many of you are on the East Coast, and so you'll be looking at praying from 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock with us. And so I invite you to do that. Please let us know if you're doing that. It'd be awesome to know that we have others who are joining us in that prayer. We also ask that you continue just to pray for the city of Portland. I know that if you are watching any news outlet, we are on the news almost every day. Because of the protest and some of the protests who have turned to riots, and there's all these differing views. I did a video last week. I actually taught or spoke rather at Western Avenue in Statesville, North Carolina. Did more of a conversational interview style with their pastor, one of their pastors, Andy Lackey. And so if you go to their Facebook page, I would encourage you to watch that. I sent that to a couple people this week who had not watched it as they were asking me just about Portland. I feel like it helped give them some clarity. But here's the reality. What you see on the news, there's some truth to it, and then, of course, they're going to embellish that truth. The city of Portland is a large city. We have 2.5 million people as a metro, and so this is a very small pocket in downtown normally of a few blocks where you're seeing most of these protests that turn violent happen. Now, most of our focus has been north and northeast Portland, and probably the second most area that's had some of these protests that have turned violent is also in north and northeast Portland. Just a couple miles from where I'm sitting in my garage/office is where they've had a couple of the protests with the North Portland Police Precinct, and where some fires have been started and some businesses have been vandalized. And so we do ask that you pray for these things. This is a reality that's happening here. It's just not the entire city under a war zone, I think, like sometimes the news outlets would like to make you think. So even where I'm sitting, within a mile and a half where some of that has taken place, my street has been quiet. Majority of my neighborhood has been quiet. It's just nearby. There has been some things that have happened. And there are some really, really hard things, really challenging things that are happening specifically in downtown. I went the other day, and it did look like some things that would come out of a war zone, and boarded up windows and graffiti everywhere, and broken windows and tents everywhere, and just on and on and on. And so we do ask that you pray for that. I think that small percentage of our city does represent a broader narrative, a story that's being told. But as people of faith, we know that we have a different story to tell, a story of hope that we can come in and tell the world. And so we do pray that as we are being present and active and faithful as the people of God, that we would be able to show a different message to those who are seeking hope. If never before, I believe in 2020, everyone is starting to scratch their heads and go, why is the world the way that it is? Why is our world so broken? And so pray with us that the brokenness that these people have in their own lives, and in our city, in our nation, in our world, will cause them to be drawn to Jesus, and that we can join them on that journey of learning what it means to follow him and follow him faithfully in the city of Portland. That's what we like to say at Sojourn, that we're inviting all people, all men, women, and children, regardless of how you identify yourself, to take a journey of learning what it means to follow Jesus and follow him faithfully in the city of Portland. And so we ask that you join us in that prayer as well. Probably like many of you, there's many days that I don't really know what to do going forward, because things seem to change every single time I turn on the news or scroll through social media. And so I do just ask that you continue to pray with us just for clarity on next steps and how the Spirit of God is leading us, and that we will rest in his strength, not in our own strength. Supporters of Sojourn, gospel partners, thank you so much for continuing to stick with us for this journey. I know it's not been easy. I know many of your churches have been affected by this pandemic as well. And so thank you from the bottom of my heart for all the people of Sojourn and the people of the city of Portland who don't even know it yet. Thank you for continuing to partner with us for this cultural moment, because we believe this in this moment that not only are we going to survive, that God's going to cause it that we thrive. And we look forward to the day that you can get back on a plane and come out here and join us, whether it's on a prayer walk or whether it's serving our community in some capacity. And so until that day, continue to pray for us. Let's stand together, stand united, as it tells us in the book of Philippians, and we will continue on. Love you guys. Thank you so much. If I can do anything for you, if I can pray for you, please send me an email, matt@sojournpdx.org, and I would love to do that. Thank you now. Until next month. Have a good one.